Hello, thank you everyone. I'm absolutely shaking at the moment to be on stage in front of so many people, many of which I follow on Twitter, so hello. You don't know me. Unfortunately, for the first section of the talk, you will then get to know me. I apologize for that. I've not connected my screen. Let's start there. Ta-da! So, to start off, this is me. It's on my business cards. Everyone that works for the charity has their own little ident. If you compare business cards, if you manage to collect the full set, very sadly, we are all in height proportioned order. It's completely accurate. Paul, our gaming manager, put us all on a height chart. And you can see I am the tallest in our charity. This is my Twitter. If any of you here don't follow me, or I don't follow you, more importantly, message me. I will follow you all at the end of the event. Grab me. If you're watching the video after it gets uploaded, same rules apply. If you're doing anything interesting, let me know. I want to follow you. If you want to get in touch with the charity in any way, shape, or form, contact information is going to be on one of the following slides. Contact at everyonecan.org.uk. Okay. So the charity I work for is Everyone Can. My name is Andrew Bromilow. I'm an electronic assistive technology technician for the charity. I'm really sorry my job title is so long. It's a pain to say. It must be even worse to sign. The charity's remit is, through training in assistive technology, we help disabled people speak, live independently, control their environment, and have fun. This talk will be about the work we do and the difference gaming can make when it's accessible. In my role at Everyone Can, I provide assistive technology assessments, training and workshops to help improve the lives of disabled people. In our one-to-one assessments, I can recommend adaptations for equipment for anything from communication to environmental control. Gaming assessments are always the most fun to do, as you can all imagine. But even when I'm not covering gaming, I will try and sneak games in here and there just to make the process a little better. An example of this that I'm going to give you first is we do assessments for typing aids and other things that can help you do work, whether it's at school, in your business, or just general day-to-day life. So especially when I'm dealing with children, I will try and get them to play a typing game to test the new keyboards out. It encourages them to actually want to use the new device, to take part, as well as just make the process less boring than typing their name repeatedly or the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, so on and so forth. If they have a cause of engagement, it's so much more meaningful seeing the people excited that they can then type and do these functions. The next thing that I also am quite known for doing is we do assessments for switch placements. So if you have limited mobility and need to interact with your computer through a switch, we will come out and we will help find where's the best position for you in your environment. I quite often will use gaming to do this. We have a game that I'm going to show you in a moment that I'm often using. We use the game because it just increases the engagement and motivation, as well as helps measure fatigue. As people play, they're invested. And you can tell if they get burnt out, then this isn't the best placement for them. You need to move it, try it, move it again, try it. Okay, maybe that first one was best, and keep going. The game that I'm going to be talking about just for this example is called Ding Dong XL. It's by a developer that has a whole range of simple one-switch games. He's made them all himself. He's teaching himself how to code. The game really just lends itself to these functions. The color scheme is dark with bright, vibrant shapes, so it's easy to pick out the obstacles, and you control it from one switch. Whenever you press the button, or more accurately, release the button, you move from either the top or the bottom to the screen to the other side. You have to avoid the obstacles as you go across. The difficulty scales with what score you get. You get a point every time you make it to the other side, and the only objective of the game is do better than last time. So it doesn't matter if you're only able to reach 5 or 10 or 20 or 175, which is the current high score of the center, not set by a staff member. We all got beat. So again, it stays engaging. As you go up through the difficulty or get a higher score, more objects come. They start rotating, they become more complex shapes, or they split. The graphics are colorful, there is a upbeat music to help people engaged. And it just works for these kind of purposes. The other benefit of it is it accepts multiple input methods. So you could be playing with the keyboard, you could play with a mouse, which means if you're using a large format mouse, we can set it for the switches you would be using to use your computer. It works for controller, things like that. Yeah, so last time I was in Scotland, I was actually visiting a specialist care home, and we broke this game out for a couple of the residents. What we did is we had them play, we tested the locations that we thought would work for them, head switches, macro switches for their fingers, foot switches, things like that. And then what we did is we translated that information to the communicators that we were trying to set them for. So we directly took the controls they would have been using to play a video game just moments earlier into communication. So some of you here or watching eventually online may actually use a communication aid through one-switch scanning, but if you're not familiar with it, it's a long and slow process. You press the button on the switch, there is a grid of different words prepared for you. It will then start searching through them in a row-by-row basis. You press again. It will then go through each option in that row. You press again. You've selected your first word. Start again and choose the next word. Once you've finished your sentence, start again and find the command speak. The computer will then say that for you. It's an amazing way that can get people with very little movement and no communication, talking, having sentences, interacting with other people. But it's not a quick process to learn, and it's not a fun process to learn. And being able to build up the skills that you need to do that through playing a game first just helps break up that process and make it enjoyable. While we were in Scotland, we had one resident that would come back to us every single day we were there just to try and beat his high score at this game and put a little bit more practice in. Interestingly enough, the developer also added a new mode after having a chat with us, whether we thought it was a good idea. You can now play this two-player, which is a great way of testing you against your friend or your support worker or your carer. You'd be amazed how many disabled gamers we get in our center that get utterly frustrated that they brought the wrong caseworker with them, and this one just can't keep up. So that moves us on to the next thing that we do. When we aren't traveling the country doing these assessments and workshops, we have a gaming center. Just quickly to run down for those that aren't able to see, I've got some photos up on the screen of the kids playing in the center. The one that's probably attracting the most attention at the moment is from one of our events, Game Together, where we have stormtroopers in our center. They're from the, I think it's the 501st Squadron or Legion. They are one of the proper reputable organizations that go around in the full kit. Yeah, they were amazing. They will not play Beat Saber because a rule is they're not allowed to touch lightsabers of any kind. I'll come back to Beat Saber later. I have plans for that. So we do sessions for children and we do sessions for adults. We do closed sessions for schools and other organizations. We do homeschool groups, and we try and get as many kids in our center as possible, as well as adults. Just this week alone, it will see over 100 disabled gamers playing on its screens. It has 150-inch 4K screens with VR stations that have just been fitted with vibration feedback. Just making the virtual reality roller coasters we put some of these kids on just a little bit scarier. But even though, just like reading a book, sorry, single-player games always have a place. Just like reading a book, though, part of the experience is sharing the story that you found with others. So we encourage people communicating, talking about the games that they're playing, swapping advice and encouragement. But ultimately, we focus on cooperative experiences, multiplayer games, couch co-op. And on screens that big, it's very easy to split a game into 4 screens and have everyone able to see what they're doing. Included by adaption or design. That's the title I gave this talk. And the reason for that is when we have a new volunteer come in and join our center, that's what I split the 2 categories of the tools we use into. There are design tools. These are tools that many of you in this room, being game developers, have had a hand in. These are functions or options in the game that can mean we can get people playing this game. And then don't necessarily have to be obvious ones. But you all should know by this point, if you don't, what are you doing, about captioning, about color options, about contrast, and things like that. So I'm going to shy away from talking about them because if I need to say it by this point, it's irrelevant. You're not getting that. Enough people have told you today. But most importantly, these are all functions that were part of the intended design of the game and how the game was meant to be played. One of the examples I was going to give was Mario Kart, but I'm going to come back to that later on for another purpose. But I have got round to Beat Saber, as I threatened I would. Beat Saber is a virtual reality rhythm game. You hold a lightsaber in each hand, and you have to cut through the colored blocks that come towards you in the direction shown on the block. You have to do it in time with the music. And if you make a few mistakes, you'll get kicked out of the game. It's, on paper, not the most accessible game out there. And that's pretty much how it came when it came out. But very quickly, the developers added new functions. It has now a no-fail mode. So you don't actually have to meet a minimum score. You don't have to hit any of the blocks to get through the entire song. You can just play and have the most fun that you can. You can choose to turn off obstacles, which means you don't have to move. You can turn off bombs, so there's no trick blocks or things that you have to avoid hitting. You can just hit anything. You can slow down the song if you're having problems recognizing the fact that something's coming towards you too quickly. We have kids playing in our center on these kind of games, competing against people getting the same similar kind of scores that they are, so much so that we use it for tournaments when we do events and things like that, and it's incredibly popular. Another big benefit as well of it is you can set the height in the game. So if you're in a wheelchair or seated, you just lower the game down, and then, hey, everything's within reach again. Adaption, software or equipment that allows someone to play in a manner that was not provided in the base experience. So equipment under this category would be the Xbox Adaptive Controller, the eye tracking cameras that we will use in our center, things like that, anything that would not be included. It could even be specialist software that we then bring in. So I'm going to talk about eye gaze racing for a moment. It's something that we take around with us because it's very easy to play, it's very quick to set up, and if you've never played a video game with just eye tracking before, you can sit down, you can get around the track, and even if you struggle, you're going to leave knowing that, hey, this is possible, we can do this, we can work with this. So we're using a program like Project Iris or Alt Controller. We create areas of interaction on the screen. Forwards, backwards, left, right. We then map them to the inputs that the game is expecting. So that could be buttons on the controller, that could be your keyboard WSD keys. Whatever the game is wanting, we then give. And then we use an eye tracking camera like the Tobii 4C. That's what we use in our center because that can actually take up to a 27-inch monitor. So we stick it on a big arm, move it nice and close to you. You can just play by looking in the right section of the screen. The boxes are always set to overlap. So if you want to turn right, if you're looking in the top half of the screen, you're going forward and you're going right. It's really that simple. It's not the most efficient way of doing things like this, but it's a way to guarantee success very quickly, which is great when you're dealing with a group of individuals that aren't going to be able to comprehend an instruction manual of how the game is going to work or what the controls are going to be. They can just position themselves in front of the screen, look at where they want to go, and the game will take them in that direction. It's created so much joy in our center. I wish I had some photos that I had permission to show you of the kids that were playing this game. But we've been able to successfully use this technique to have them playing multiplayer against their family, where their family is either also using eye gaze, because that works, or they're using keyboard, mouse, or they're using a controller. It doesn't matter. Design and adaptation together. Obviously, for the best results, we need a game that's been designed with inclusivity features built in, with the right adaptations that are bespoke and needed by the individual. So I can't say his name. Unfortunately, I can't say the name of any of the kids that I'm going to be talking about today. But this gentleman in our center came in with his granddad, and we set him up with the Xbox adaptive controller playing Mario Kart. Again, I said I'd come back to Mario Kart. He is steering with a large arcade-style joystick, specifically the Ultra Stick 360. Yeah, that's the one. And a large switch button to launch items as well as get through the menus. Interestingly enough, there was a little aside I have about this kid, that when he came in, the first time he came, his granddad sat in this picture, arm around his shoulder, helping him through the menus, because he hadn't played a game like this before. And there was this nice moment when he'd selected the character he wanted to play as. And his granddad saw on the screen what it was and was like, no, you don't want to play as the girl. You want to be Mario. Here you go, I'll help you. And shuffled the controller over to Mario. And the kid just slowly turned around and just gave him a death stare before hitting back and just moving back to Princess Peach. And the granddad just kind of took a step back in genuine surprise, like, oh, okay, sure, right. Yeah, absolutely. And he just immediately was supportive and brought it on. I think he's now played as pretty much every character on there. And in fact, when they come into the center now, they play against each other and the other kids and carers that come in. This is me and him. I'm unfortunately going to appear on the screen fairly regularly. So the design choices in this game were the features in Mario Kart that mean you don't have to hold a button down to go forward. The game will handle that for you. That's one less job you need to do. In other games that don't have this feature, I have seriously had to just set up a button on the Xbox adaptive controller and just put a weight on it, or turn it upside down and put a weight on it. It's cheap, but it works. Having a feature in the game means they don't have to do that. They can navigate to it themselves and just play. We also use Stay on Track, which just reduced the demand on him to steer, but still gave him full control. I already went through the adaptions. It was the Xbox adaptive controller. It was plugged in through a Titan stick because the adaptive controller doesn't work with a Switch directly, so you have to trick it to work. Large joystick, large switch for the menus and items. It's quite a simple setup, but it works. The Xbox adaptive controller is a brilliant device. We use it every day in our center. I always ask for more of them. Let's talk about, for a moment, the benefits of gaming. Often, our assessments are referred to us by an individual's family or their occupational therapists. I have a special soft part in my heart for when I do any assessment that's been referred to by a stroke organization or the stroke organization for personal reasons. So I will always try and go the extra mile for them. 3 of these photos are from those kind of assessments. In these, you can see a kid trying to play, or an adult, he's my age. So he's 27 at the moment. I still cast myself as a kid, I'm sorry about that. He's trying to play a console game. It's actually, I believe, Dead Space, because he's scrolled through our catalog and he'd never played the original Dead Space. But he's playing it now with one hand after having a head injury. So he's doing that through the Xbox adaptive controller. When we work with his occupational therapist, we were able to map out what would be the best controls for him, what would be the easiest for him to use. And then we didn't do that. Instead, what we did is we mapped the games out so he could play in the most efficient manner he could. We gave him that instructions and we wrote that down. And then we set it up for, well, what's the next best thing? And we added certain functions that he would need to use, but could never lose the game from not being able to find those buttons. And then we placed them on his weakened side, so that in an average playtime of around 30 minutes, he's going to have to 4 or 5 times reach over and press that button. And his physiotherapist nearly punched the air, because that's physio that she can't get him to do normally on a day-to-day basis. But for a game, he will. And so we use this kind of technique to improve people's recovery, help people better themselves through gaming. A lot of the games that we enjoy, going back to Beat Saber again, you play against yourself. It's a cooperative experience that you share, but you're just trying to beat whatever you did last time. It is all about providing an opportunity for self-improvement. We've also started working with a couple of others to help develop a new adaptation for one-handed play. There's very little I can talk about that unless you know someone who might be interested, and we can try and liaise with some information. But hopefully we can release something soon that will be as cheap as possible or free, that will just give you an entry level into gaming. Here's an embarrassing photo of myself. So for this next section, we actually have a specific family that I want to talk about. And the kid I'm showing on the screen is currently laughing at me in the photos. I am wearing a giant Pikachu outfit, if you can't see it, which I actually got because, believe it or not, I run a half marathon in that. I will do an awful lot of silly things for fundraising and for the good of children. I'm a sucker for punishment. So he comes into our center. He's been coming since it opened. He's now 12 years old, and he's been diagnosed with cerebral palsy. The kid we mentioned earlier also has the same condition. His 2 brothers also have disabilities, but they're different. He also has another brother with no disabilities. They all come to our center to play games, and they do so together. Though, admittedly, they quite often will then have an argument, splinter out, and play at different sides of the center. That's fine, too. The point is they all came together, and they leave together. His mum has told us that gaming is the only activity all of her children can enjoy. The reason for that is, with the nature of his conditions, he can't take part in some of the activities the others want to go on. He would go and sit at the sidelines, or they would go for him, and they would sit on the sidelines. The same as for each of her children. Gaming, everybody likes gaming. If there is someone that tells you that there is no point in gaming or gaming isn't fun, they've not found the right game. And if you point me at them, I will track down that game, and I will harass them until they like gaming. So in the photos, he is currently playing, I believe this was Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo. 2 of his brothers are sat on the sofa next to him playing. One is just a friend from the center that decided to jump in when I was about to take a photo, and I decided, yeah, that's fine. So he's happy enough playing with all them. That's the takeaway. It's included. He's playing the same game as his brothers. I'd like to show you a quick video that his mum recorded for us. The video was an interview that she made that was recorded by a third party when they wanted to create us as their charity for the year. So we had very little to do with it. And it's quite, to me, because I know him, it's quite emotional. I've edited out his name. I really hope I haven't said his name at any point during the speech, because under safeguarding, I've been told not to. If you watch this video on YouTube, because it's there, his name's there. But again, safeguarding, I'm not allowed to say it myself. I've cut that bit out. Hopefully it's not too noticeable for you. The video's only about 40 seconds long to a minute.
We've never been that family that has done a lot of going out because of the needs of the children. Who's got cerebral palsy. He has had quite a rough year. He's realised now that he's not going to drive a car when he's older. I think his disability has sort of dawned on him, at the age of 11. It really was around the time that this place opened that he really started to smile again.
Again, I'd like to add that we didn't actually create that video. So the fact that I feature heavily in it is purely coincidental. I didn't actually realize until after I started editing it down that, oh man, that's just me. But what I'd like to repeat is a line that she says in that video. He's realized now that he's not going to drive a car when he's older. That, and along with a few others comments that were made, struck the staff in our centre quite hard. There was definitely a quiet moment when we watched the video go live and heard how she felt. The next time she came into the centre, I talked to him, and then I pulled him over to the driving rig, where we hastily threw together some very basic adaptions. We Velcroed switches to our Logitech racing wheel and had him drive around the crew too. His mum came over to watch because she was amazed. And his brothers that would normally come over and just help him around the track just sat back and saw that he could do it on his own. After about half an hour of playing, he turned to me and said, "Can I use this to drive a real car?" Being me, I said no. This is just switches and Velcro. But absolutely, there are adapted cars out there, and when you're a little bit older, if you want to, I will track them down, and I promise I will put you in touch with the people that can make a car that you can drive. Who knows, he might be a terrible driver. I didn't promise he'll pass his test. But at the very least, round a track while I'm far away, I will make sure he gets to control a car. And that's the big takeaway of gaming, is this is a young gamer that had given up hope on something. He decided that no, he would not be able to have independence in this area. Thanks to a video game, just the open world game, The Crew 2, a steering wheel, literally just Velcro and a switch. We also used a mag arm to give him a reverse and a brake, and I also eventually threw turbo on there because why not? I'm terrible, and I get told off for this. When I'm mapping for eye gaze, I'll always try and sneak in the horn, because the horn is the most important button in any racing game. If you can't be blasting the horn as you overtake people, you are not playing, in my opinion. Style points. Before I close off this speech, I just wanted to talk for a moment about collaboration. The fact that all of you are here, have I spelt this wrong? Have I? Yes, awesome. I caught about 3 spelling mistakes while I was just in this room, and then quickly went out and fixed them. If you've engaged this far in just this day, or any of the videos that you've watched online, clearly you're invested. And that's great to see. I don't think I've been in a room with so many people that are interested in making games accessible before. And that's all thanks to Ian Hamilton and the rest of the team. Hello. Hello, Tara. If there's any way that the work that we do can help you guys, if you're game developers, we're happy to talk about demoing your game in front of the audiences you need to target what adaptations are necessary. If you ever want to sit down and talk about, well, how would you get this game to be played? What would you plug in? We'll show you the hardware that we would use. We're quite happy to do that. If there's anything that you could do for us, take the typing game that I showed at the start. I use that for testing, but realistically, during a testing process, you can only get so far through that game before you hit a wall. I know that. It would be great if there was one that there wasn't a barrier, that the kids could take home and complete whenever we assess them and go, hey, this is the keyboard for you. If they had a game to take home that they could then play on it, you know, everyone here knows that they would be so much better when it came for them going into school the next day. Other things that we desperately need, there are loads of tools out there to help adults which have severe disabilities to learn how to read and other functions like that. Almost every single one of them is almost demeaningly childish. Like, what we really need is more AAA developed titles that can engage an adult that has cognitive difficulties without using cartoons, without being babyish. because the number of times I can go to someone and be like, hey, there's this service called Look to Learn, and it's brilliant. When you look on the screen, it will show you what it says. But certain adults will not do that, because that's designed for a younger audience. It's a great software, don't get me wrong, we use it, but not everyone will. So that kind of engagement, you are the people that will be able to make those kind of things. And if you ever have a free time, or ever have a room for a project that you want to do just to help the community, there are many charities in this country that you can reach out to, and trust me, we all have a shopping list of things that you guys could make in a day. But more importantly than that, I think what's amazing is the fact that so many people in this room are technically directly competing against other teams also in this room, yet we're all here because we all care. And at the end of the day, as long as the people that are playing games benefit, we're all prepared to share those secrets. We're all prepared to help the opposition if it helps everyone. And you guys are amazing. Thank you. Just one more slide. And ta-da, I told you I did the run. Thank you.